Welcome, everyone, to another enlightening Ascension Wisdom Conversations. It is brought to you by Galactic Ascension Academy at SheilaTillich.com. Yes, this is the time to awaken and live your soul's mastery. I am a galactic grandmother, Sheila Tillich, and I invite you to relax and enjoy this time together as we discover our Ascension Wisdom Mastery. As souls, we have entered a higher dimensional reality as humans on planet Earth. This is the new energy consciousness. It has awakened our multidimensional spiritual DNA abilities, which are given to us by our galactic ancestors. Join me, dear ones, as we live at our soul's full potential, live in our wisdom mastery in this ascension time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ascension Wisdom, and I am your host, Reverend Sheila B. Tillich, and I am very excited for you to join me and my beautiful guest, a very special guest. Her name is Cindy Edington. Welcome, Cindy. Welcome to Ascension Wisdom.
Thank you, Sheila. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, great. I'm very excited to bring you on today because there's so many people that are part of our journey, and you're one of them. So I want my audience to get to know you. So I'm going to read her bio so you know a little bit more about Cindy. All right. And Cindy is a wonderful, wonderful practitioner who lives her life and her passion. So this is Cindy. Cindy Edington is an international best-selling author, a transformational coach, and founder of Tranquil Heart Wellness, blending a lifelong path in both scientific innovation and holistic healing. She guides women to reconnect with their inner wisdom, heal through life transitions, and rise into empowered, authentic living. My kind of girl, Cindy. I love it.
Thank you.
I know. I love it. I love it. Enthusiasm, it's great, great energy. So, all right, everybody. So, as we have been talking, our conversation is, I like to make it as personal as possible and as bringing our own wisdom through where we've been and how we got here. So, Cindy, would you like to share a little bit more about your story, your backstory? And that's where I kind of like to talk with my guests to begin with, to make it like we're just having that cup of tea. That's what we're doing. We're just sharing who we are and how we got here. So Cindy, would you like to share a little bit about who you are?
Thank you for asking. It's been a long journey. I think for most of us, it's a long journey. There's many chapters to the story. For me, my background is science. I spent over 35 years actually working in clinical research in a number of different therapeutic areas. And in tandem, I was doing my passion work. And that all started from a heart-breaking event, but I actually like to call it a heart-opening event. So I went through a really heartbreaking divorce. I needed to find a way to not be, I think, crying on the floor, so to speak, in the corner. Because at the time, my daughter was 9 months old. And so I was a single mom for a good many years. And it took a lot of time to weave through that, navigate through the aftermath of a divorce. And so, like I said, it's been over 30 years at this point, and there's still things that I learn about myself, and that's the beautiful thing, right? Is that I'm always willing to and want to evolve and grow and go along. This all started with again, that moment. I needed to find a way to have extra money. That's really how it started. And I loved the gym. And that was kind of my way, my sanctuary, if you will, to reground myself, to really have a place where I could go and express myself in a different way. And so with that, I leveraged that and became a group fitness instructor. And it was a win-win-win because they had a little daycare there. So I could bring my daughter with me. I could get a workout in, and oh, by the way, I could get paid for it. So that's literally how it initially started. Fast forward many years, and I'm plugging along, chugging along, doing whatever I needed to do to survive. And at the time, I was working again in clinical research, and a colleague of mine was a Kundalini yoga teacher on the side. And we got along great. I mean, we just had that kind of energy, and I know you know what I'm talking about because we have that kind of energy together too. And he's like, "Would you come to one of my classes?" And I was like, okay, and here I was like this really hardcore physical, kickboxing, spin classes, athletic conditioning. These are the types of classes that I taught and was involved in. And I'm like, I don't know about yoga. Well, all right, I'll bite. I went in, yeah, right. I went in, and his class was not physical at all. I mean, we literally sat in easy seated the entire time. We did some chanting. We did a few little exercises that were like nothing that I was used to. It was very gentle, very soft. We ate an apple and we sang a song. And I was like, okay. I was like, wasn't really physically, charging me up, so to speak, and getting the endorphins going. But when I got up to walk out of the class, it was like a lightning bolt hit me. I literally felt like I was walking on air and I had no idea what was going on. I just knew I needed more of that. I was like, oh my gosh, I felt such inner peace that I had not felt ever. I don't think ever I had felt that in my life. And so that started me on the path then of yoga. And it took a while, but my yoga instructor at this point had been a yoga instructor for over 27 years now. That led me down the path to yoga therapy because I got to a point where yoga was just like it's like there's a yoga, studio in every corner now, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And I was teaching power classes initially, things that kind of still fit in with my, physical fitness thing. And I got to a point where I was like, I want to be able to offer something for people that can't come into what we were calling at that time like a normal class. What does that even mean? And so, I decided to get into yoga therapy, and it was very, very new. And this was, again, 15, 16 years ago at this point. I I found a place. It was in California, so I had to fly there, and I spent 5 weeks at an ashram and going through different types of training that was very focused in on the holistic approach. And not that yoga wasn't, it is this holistic approach, right? It's mind, body, spirit, but really focusing in on people that needed more of like a one-on-one, more of a deeper healing, not just the physical asana piece of it. We are moving through the postures and breathing. That's a piece of it, but it really delved deeper into more of the connection with meditation, mind, body, spirit in a much deeper and richer way and more on a one-on-one. Great, right? Get through half of the training. And there's a gentleman there he's basically one of the teachers, and he's also a somatic counselor, and he does yoga for grief relief. Antonio Salsas is his name. Wonderful man. And I don't know what he did, Sheila, but he got up there and he had us doing some breathing and some types of poses. We were doing, I think, a windmill pose and a couple of other things. And again, it was like a lightning bolt, pierced me in the heart. And I crumpled on the floor and I started bawling. And there's like 60 other women in the room at this time. What a way to clear the room. They're all like, what's they hightail out, right? And he came over and he just sat by me and he gave me space to just do what I needed to do. And I knew at that moment, right at that moment, that I needed to like work with him. And so I worked with him for probably a good 4 years as a therapist and as a yoga therapist. And I just went deeper into my own self. So this was the really beginning, I would say, of deep, deep inner work where I really had to, his big thing was to me, Cindy, you need to sit in your sadness. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what are you talking about? I need to sit in my sadness. Because all of my training and growing up, the messages I received was like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. What are you crying for? I'll give you something to cry
Something to
about.
cry about, yeah.
So those kinds of messages. But what that did at the time of the divorce was that it was like I can't feel. So it was like, oh, I got a feeling coming up. I'm gonna tuck that in that pocket. Oh, there's another one. Oh, I don't want to feel that. I'm gonna tuck it in that pocket. So I think I had built up probably a good decade. I'm gonna say a good decade's worth of tucking my feelings to the point where whatever he said and did, it literally again, it the cupboard burst open. And so he gave me the space to actually cry the tears that I hadn't cried, that I had tucked away because I was like, again, I've got this infant, I got to raise my daughter, I didn't want to be a mess in the corner. And so he gave me this opportunity to really go really deep within myself. And so that led me down again. It's another chapter, right? Learning more about myself and learning how to ground myself, but also just learning how much of the programming that we receive,
Oh my
from
goodness.
the generations had affected me and how many limiting beliefs were underneath that I didn't even know at the time. One of the things that came up was perfectionism.
Mm,
I hadn't even seen that until
yeah.
recently. I'd say probably a good few years ago. So again, let's fast forward again. I finally am 60 years old and I've been working, several jobs. I've been working all these side jobs all along, teaching, doing my daytime gig, several different teaching things that I'm doing the yoga therapy. And oh, by the way, I lost a job. When I lost a job, somebody had recommended, Cindy, you should be a coach. You should be a life coach. Because people would just come to me. I would give space to
Mm.
people. So I did a whole 2.5 year program on transformational life coaching, doing that for many years. So again, lots of different things. I'm doing all these things that were filling my soul on the side, but kept the day job because it was the security, right? It was the money that was going to give me the benefit, health benefits, all of that. All
Exactly.
right. We get to, I'm going to go on 7 years ago now. I turned 60. And I'm like, my daughter's married. She's on her own. She's doing really well. My husband, I'm remarried now. My husband, he's got a really stable job. And I just feel like it's time for me. Like I just want to spend some time doing what I really want to do full time. And he was so encouraging.
That's
And
wonderful.
so, you know, 2019, I quit my job and moved into this full time. And I thought I was going to be doing yoga therapy full time. And then COVID hit. All right. So I'm like, all right, I can do something online. Coaching has always been like on the phone, really rarely in person because, you don't want that body language getting in the way and want people to be able to process in their own space. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to buff my coaching skills. So I take another year program to buff. In this year program, part of the whole thing is learning how to be an EFT, emotional freedom technique practitioner. That's part of the training.
Love it.
And again, more things percolate up. You have to do all of your work. So all these things that I'm doing, the coaching, you have to do your own work. It's not just,
Right.
oh, Cindy, sit in a corner and let me coach you. No, I have to do all of my own work. So we're coaching each other through this, right? And we're using EFT as a tool, in addition to a lot of the yoga techniques that I use in terms of breathing and meditation. It's a beautiful mix. And it was Margaret Lynch Ranieri's program that I took. So I want to give props to people where I need to give them to. And again, learning how much programming, generational, societal, cultural, industrial, all of the messages we as women have received in particular. Not to say that men haven't received their own, but again, I'm a woman, I resent, I literally can resonate with that.
Mhm.
So it was just really, really interesting how much of the programming came into play. And again, more deep work for myself. All right, now we fast forward again. And my business is going well, and I'm doing, again, a variety of things. I'm still doing yoga. Oh, and by the way, in all of this, I became a Reiki master teacher. Again, adding tools to the tool belt, EFT practitioner and coach. All right, so this is all the backstory. And then I meet a woman, Sinette Von Breda. And I met her through another woman that I met in our area on Alignable. And she introduced me to Sinette. Now, Sinette, You're a part of the group as well,
Yeah.
Diamond Beauties Forever. And Sanette was the one that asked me to tell my story, like literally be a part of her book, a collaborative book. And it was the first time that I actually told about the divorce. I hid that for so long because I wanted to protect my daughter. I didn't want her to know all the nitty-gritty details. So I was very protective of that. But I learned how to tell the story in a really great way where I wasn't blaming and shaming anybody. It'd been years, right? I get along with my ex fine. It's still the respect, it's my daughter's father. And with that, a whole new chapter opened up. So that now, in terms of being this author, and you know, it was a big stage. It was, we're in the Library of Congress. We were on the Jumbotron in Times Square. And then she introduced me to a couple other people. And now at this point, I'm a 6-time #1 international best-selling author. And then I've met other people. And so the latest book that's really kind of my own, but still a collaboration with Roshni Sharma Fleming, my soul sister from Toronto. We have that book out. And now I'm working on another, my full own solo book. And so this book is all about forgiveness because the, the last thing that's happened to me lately is that I came back from a vacation, and part of my daily routine is I do a walking meditation. You can sit and chant Om or whatever. There's nothing wrong. You can do any kind of meditation. The one that I resonate with the most for me is a walking one in nature. And I'm walking. And I'm like really happy. I'm like in my zone of like, I'm in my zone of genius, I really feel, right? In terms of all of what I'm doing passion-wise and giving back to women. And I'm asking, am I living my purpose? Is there more? What more do I need to be doing to be helping women, to help empower women into their full expressions of who they are so they can live in their passion? And
Exactly.
I got a direct line that came through so clear, and it showed it in the face of a book. And it said nothing but forgiveness. And I was like, really? I was like, really? And then right after that, I heard the line that Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I had an immediate aha moment.
Yes.
And it was, isn't that what we are all here to learn? How to forgive others and how to forgive ourselves. And then the third thing that came through immediately after that was love is the conduit through which forgiveness flows.
Yes.
And I came home and I wrote those all down. And then I set it aside. And I'm like, I thought my book was going to be about my memoir, telling more of what I just told you, and a little short synopsis of some of these different chapters that I've had, throughout my life. I've also had to go through a cancer journey. So again, there's lots of different chapters, right? I set it to the side. Well, in the recent months, it's been coming clear and clear because I've been connecting more and more with my spirit guides. Something that was really new to me, but in this group of Diamond Beauties has been so wonderful of like learning more about what I can do to evolve and ascend and bring more wisdom in. And I realized, I have a beautiful, beautiful group of spirit guides, angels, protectors, and I've had all along. And I had to go back and start remembering how many miracles have happened, the big ones, the small ones, just being here is a miracle, but
Yeah.
some of the even bigger ones. And I was like, oh my gosh, so much gratitude. And I know my whole journey has been about forgiveness and gratitude and compassion. And it's all about learning how to love ourselves,
Exactly.
completely flaws and all. And so I've been having more confirmations that, yes, forgiveness kept coming up. So one of our Mrs. Potts meetings a few weeks back, I started to talk about it because it came to surface. And so I asked a question of the group. And we had this beautiful conversation. And one of our other girls said, well, that's your book. What are you waiting for? You need to be interviewing people. And so this is my latest thing right now. And I thank you for it, agreeing today to be one of my interviewees. And that's where I am right now because I think it's so, so important. Forgiveness is such a big piece to me in terms of ascending, because it really is, it's the two-way street with love, right? It
Exactly.
flows through, but it flows right back through. And I think to me, my purpose, I feel is my mission and my passion at this point is to really lean into forgiveness even more and be able to put something out there to help women, men too. But again, I like to focus in on women because that's been my experience and I can speak directly to that. I've walked in a lot of those shoes. But to really connect with other women to see where they are in their journey with forgiveness. And my hope and dream is to put something out there that will be so enriching and up leveling and helping other women to ascend into their most beautiful selves, because it's, I truly believe we're just these beautiful beings of love and light. And so again, I know I just rambled on a whole bunch,
That's
but
okay.
big backstory. But that's literally it. In the nutshell, lots of different experiences that have come my way. Each and every one of them has led me to another step on my own unfoldment. And I'm so grateful for every one of the heartbreaking, heart-opening events that have happened, because without them, I wouldn't have learned. I wouldn't have become who I am today. And I
Exactly.
think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Lots of wisdom, lots of wisdom. This is what I like. I like sharing from the heart, really sharing what we're going through every single day as we ascend. And it is about our wisdom, our total wisdom. And when we talked about that subject on our Mrs. Potts, it really talked to me about my own book that I'm writing. I have it about it's all about love, and it's about that forgiveness. And we all experience it in a different way, but it's all the same. You
Yes.
know, what's our wisdom? How do we get our wisdom? How do we help others with that? And why are we here, right? What's our purpose?
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I am very excited for you because I know as we go forward during this awakening on earth, we're awakening to a new frequency, a new energy. So many more great things are happening to each and every one of us. And Cindy, you are a joy, absolute joy. And I am very excited to be able to bring to my audience you, the beautiful
Well, thank
Cindy
you so
Edington.
much. Right back at you, girl. I feel the same way. Again, it's such a good energy. I love being around like-minded women as well. Um, I think for me, just having community, that being in a community where you already belong, you don't have to fit into anything. I think that's the beauty of our community, is that there's no judgment.
Exactly.
It's come as you are, and you're accepted for all the gifts that you bring. And I think that's it's just so beautiful, because that was something I was really looking for, is that I think sometimes too, when we're kind of like spearheading, wisdom. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
the proper way to explain it, but being a teacher, being a mentor, being a guide, so we need it too, right? Because we can put that out there, but I needed to be around women that were uplifting, because there are times when I need to be uplifted too. And it's beautiful to be in a community surrounded by women who are there for you. And I think
exactly.
that's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And my own personal life, the community is very important to have a community that you can share with and be real, because every single one of us are going through different situations in our personal life, and the growth and the wounds that we have that come and get triggered where we don't know where the heck they came from, but they
Right.
came from those old programmings. And when when we say, stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about, it's like, exactly, we remember those words because that's what it was like back then. We couldn't speak up. We couldn't say how we were feeling. And also, it was about survival, surviving where we were in that moment.
Yeah.
And now, so many of us are waking up to who we really are. It's like, no, no, I'm a good person. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. And I want to be validated.
Oh,
And I
that's
love
huge.
it because, yeah,
That's huge. I think
huge.
that's the biggest thing is, um, clients that I work with is just honoring your feelings because they're valid.
Yes,
You're feeling them
exactly.
valid because they're yours. And I remember back as you're saying, I mean, we've had a few decades on the planet at this point, and it's so different now. There's so much more information available, I think, for women and people in general. But what's really interesting though is that there's still a lot of the same stuff still happening. And I really think that the more as again, the time that we're in right now, so many more women are waking up and waking up earlier. Didn't
Exactly.
take 50, 60 years to get there, right?
Exactly.
And
And
that's
that's
the
what, and we as wise women, wise wisdom women, because we have had so many miles or years here experiencing all this, so that the young ones can start earlier than we did and also have a more joyful and happiness life.
yeah.
Do you
I think
agree?
that's part of our purpose here is to break all those old generational chains that
Exactly.
have bounded us for so long is that start breaking through that, boy, the next generations, hopefully,
Exactly. And all the young kids here that already have it, you
yeah,
know, they're so wise, and it's like,
yeah,
and many of the young ones are waking up to that part. It's like, whoa, whoa, I can't believe that they said that, but they did. It's like, how did they know that? And it's like the kids that are born now are a whole different breed of knowing, of loving and joy. And we as older wise women, I think we really need to share that happiness and the joy that we have, because that is what brings people together. It's like we don't feel so alone, and we feel, and there's so many role models out there. I remember the role models that I had, but I wasn't ready to understand it. Now I look back and say, oh my goodness, that's part of my journey. That's one of those chapters that you were talking about in the book.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And how did we get here, and where are we going to now? So I'm just very, very honored to be able to walk this walk with you and another woman, wise woman with beautiful wisdom, and how God, however you want to call it, my soul source, God was with me, and this is my journey. And there's so many others that are waking up to this beautiful energy that's here and living their purpose. I am so honored to have you share your
Honored and
wisdom.
privileged to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. We'll have to do this again.
Yes.
And please have part two. Part two. All right, we will. All right, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Ascension Wisdom. And I am just so honored to be able to bring this type of talk to all of you, to know that you're not alone and you're very, very worthy. And we do this together, each and every one of us. So come back, please, and join in the community of love. That's what we're doing. We're sharing the love and our purpose and being there for each other. A beautiful community of love. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye. Welcome, everyone, to another enlightening Ascension Wisdom Conversations. It is brought to you by Galactic Ascension Academy at SheilaTillich.com. Yes, this is the time to awaken and live your soul's mastery. I am a galactic grandmother, Sheila Tillich, and I invite you to relax and enjoy this time together as we discover our Ascension Wisdom Mastery. As souls, we have entered a higher dimensional reality as humans on planet Earth. This is the new energy consciousness. It has awakened our multidimensional spiritual DNA abilities, which are given to us by our galactic